All right, let me now bring all of this together. We worked from thesis to hypotheses, we talked about prototyping. Now it's all about learning and learning again. If I haven't convinced you quite yet why you should all do this, why it is so important in the Space Lab context to learn these things, let me talk about 3 components why learning and learning again is so important. There's something called the Dunning-Kruger Effect, which we will explore. We'll talk about rate-based learning, and I give you a fair warning, which is the warning of what is called premature optimization. Now, the Dunning-Kruger Effect goes back to 2 psychologists who are called Dunning and Kruger, of course, and have measured or have formulated a thesis, which has since been proved many, many times, which is called the Dunning-Kruger Effect. It's fairly famous. And the Dunning-Kruger Effect says this, that if you look at experience on one hand and our confidence and our ability on the other, what you find over and over and over again is that if you have a little bit of experience, our confidence seems to shoot up and it becomes over-exaggerated. We have too much confidence in our abilities when we have a little bit of experience. And you see this in learning environments over and over and over again. You see it today with all these pundits on the internet who know a little bit about something, but seem to talk about a big game as in they're truly the experts. And then what Dunning and Kruger found is that the more experience you gain, and I'm pretty sure you've all lived through this if you just think back to your educational life, the more experience you gain, the less confidence you become, because you realize, oh my God, there's so much more to be learned. There's so little I already know. And then, of course, eventually you get out of that trough where once you get enough experience, your confidence actually rises. Now, here's why rapid prototyping, the quick iterations, the quick learning cycles actually make a huge difference, because they allow you to get past this initial point of overconfidence very quickly. It allows you to avoid the Dunning-Kruger effect, the negative sides of it, and gets you out of that overinflated peak of confidence in your abilities, in your knowledge, very, very quickly. So do yourself a favor, get out of there. Be careful. We all fall for the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a very human nature thing to do, so be careful. Now, if I haven't convinced you quite yet why all of this actually matters, let me introduce you to a concept of rate-based learning. This is pure math. It's very simple. If you try something new, and let's assume your new product, your new initiative, your new idea has a 5% chance of success, which, for example, in the world of startups is already a very high assumption. In the world of fast-moving consumer goods, very high assumption. Your rate of success typically is lower. But here's the pure math example of this. If you have a 5% chance of success and you actually launch this as a small prototype and you repeat it 25 times, and not even taking into account that you actually learned something from repeat to repeat, which should increase your theoretical rate of success by quite a bit. But just by repeating it, and of course you're not doing the same thing over and over again, you're changing pieces of it, your rate of success shoots up to 72%. That is what is called rate-based learning. This is pure math. It's a little bit like rolling the dice. If you roll a dice and you need to get a 6 to be successful, of course you want to get more dice rolls. You want to get more abilities to roll the dice, because every single time you roll that dice, your chance of success to get that 6 actually goes up. So the question then becomes, how do I get more rolls of the dice? And the answer to that is, of course, to create smaller, more nimble, quicker prototypes so that you increase your rate of learning. Prototypes where you minimize the time, the effort, the energy it takes you to run the prototype. So instead of running one big, giant project, you run 1,000 small ones. And then the last one is, and this is a fair warning I want to give you, there's a concept called premature optimization. This goes all the way back to the days of early day software from Donald Knuth. And what Donald said is that every once in a while we find that we are going to optimize prematurely, too early. We find ourselves focusing on factors which don't really quite matter yet because we haven't actually solved the big question. Remember, the monkey plays a role here. And he said that premature optimization is the root of all evil. Now, I don't quite know if that's actually correct in this statement, but I do know that premature optimization can get in your way big time. I used to work at Google when we released Google Glass, a failed product without a doubt. But here's the thing which happened with Google Glass. Google Glass was by no way, means, or shape ready for the market. It wasn't a particularly good product. The battery life wasn't quite there yet. The functionality of the product wasn't good enough. You kind of looked very weird when you wore it. But we had conversations at Google where we discussed the particular shade of blue the device should come out as one of the color options. That is what is called premature optimization. We're spending cycles, energy, effort on figuring out a factor which really doesn't matter yet because the core of the product hasn't been solved. So be very careful. It's very easy to slip into premature optimization. And it goes a little bit back to the story we had with the monkey, where we focus on the things we actually have control over, which are easy for us to figure out, versus the hard questions. How do we actually make this product even work in the first place? How do we make it work so that you don't need to recharge the batteries every 3 hours? How do we add functionality which the user actually wants and needs? Now, lastly, here's the most important thing, the simple summarization of all of the stuff we have talked about it. And it goes back to Nike's mantra, just doing it. There's a very famous quote from Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos. He said that doing things at high speed, that's the best defense against the future. Because if you're leaning away from the future is going to win every time. And the important part here, I think, is high speed. It's all about us increasing our rate of learning, creating an ability to very quickly test our assumptions, our hypotheses, and learn from them. And that, my friends, is how you build a super successful project at ATCO under the Space Labs. And with that being said, that is all you need to know about the world of rapid prototyping.